Hey everyone, it's mandygibbons here, and I'm here with Marnie Cooper, founder of the Upspring. And Marnie is also a family dispute resolution practitioner and nationally accredited mediator. And one of the things that I love so much about Marnie is her approach to mediation when couples are separating. So, welcome, Marnie.
Oh, thanks, Mandy. It's great to be here. I love talking to you.
I love talking to you too. I'm super excited that you're on today.
Thanks.
And so, Marnie, I'd love to hear a bit about your own backstory, just quickly, before we get into the meaty bits and actually how you got into this career.
Sure. Okay. Well, thanks. I separated and divorced when my kids were very young. I had a baby and a toddler. It was awful. It also took years to sort out, and it was really difficult to navigate. Like, I didn't know, I didn't even know anyone who was separated, but I didn't know who could help, uh, what to ask, let alone what I was meant to do. So I got on with raising my children, and I returned to university and finished my psychology degree. But then people would come to me asking for advice about their separation, their divorce, either going through it, or they'd talk to me about how they felt once they'd done it and worked through it. But there were so many commonalities. Like, they really were deflated. And I suppose people were stumbling through it and felt like they should have dealt with it better, or things could have been different. And they seem very the poorer for it, I suppose, financially, but also more importantly, emotionally. And it's really difficult because at the time, it's the time when your kids really need you to be in great shape.
Yeah, yeah.
So I became a mediator and a family dispute resolution practitioner. And I created the Upspring as a place for separated parents to come to have the kind of mediation that would let them get on with their life.
Yes.
And I see with mediation, we need to have some more conversations about what a powerful tool it is and how you can
Yeah.
use it. And most importantly, like, how good it is for children.
Yes, that's right. And isn't it amazing? I mean, even being through my own marriage separation, you kind of feel very helpless
Mm.
and disempowered, right? And especially if you have people around you that, in my situation, I had people around me that had been through nasty separations, and my former hubby did as well. And so they were trying to have influence over what was going on for
Oh,
us, right?
yeah.
And so that made it challenging because I just kept saying to people, I don't want to hear it. Yeah, I value your advice, but I want ours to be different. And they go, everyone says that. It'll never be different, right?
No, I know.
And so I think that it's wonderful to, be able to find someone who can help with that, right? Who you feel comfortable and confident with, who then you're not sort of listening to the outside noise. And not only that, because you have been through it yourself, that's like lived experience, and that just makes such a huge impact, because then when people come to you, they know that you genuinely understand what it's like, right?
Yeah, I do. I do. And it's something that I see, that people in this time, it's so stressful, but they don't necessarily present the way that they ordinarily would. And I think that that needs to be taken into consideration as well.
Yeah.
That, yeah, how you're dealing with it or not dealing with it, um, you need to be given some leeway and uh, and viewed not only respectfully, but also with an understanding that you're just a human going through a bad time that isn't going to last forever.
Yeah. And when you've got two people that are, experiencing a lot of, usually there's a lot of like emotional and mental turmoil, right? And
Yeah.
that puts you then operating from a place of fear, when you're making your decisions and how you're
Yeah.
communicating. And it's
Mm.
not often, one partner or even both partners can kind of see or feel maybe that that person is coming from a place of distrust against them or anger or something like that, when it's not that, it's just fear. It's just like,
Oh,
you know,
such the case, yes.
fear for themselves, fear of the unknown, of because you're
Mm.
losing your identity, right? And
Yeah.
it's just everything that you had thought that your future was going to be is no longer, and you're just thinking, I don't even know what my life would be like tomorrow, let alone
I know. I mean,
anything
it's not as
else,
if,
right?
yeah, it's not as if you prepare for it, is it? Like
No.
I mean, we get married because we're committed to staying with that beautiful person for the rest of our lives. So
Yeah.
it's not as if you have a toolbox or any kind of knowledge of what separation is, apart from maybe what you've seen on TV or with friends. But yeah,
Yes.
you want it to be different.
Yeah.
And I think, and the fear comes across as, it can be anything from hysteria to anger, or just even shutting down. And I find that's one of the things about mediation, that you need to prepare really well. And I see when you prepare and know what you're walking into, that it drops that I suppose that sort of emotional reactivity, but also your fear. But it's like anything, isn't it? If you prepare for it and learn about it, you're going to deal with it somewhat better. So I suppose that's the thing about mediation. I see people doing it successfully and coping with it a lot better if they know what the process is and know what's expected of them during that time, and also have had some time to work out what the issues are, what are they dealing with, and what their outcomes are. And I feel as a mediator, I've got to help people do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. And it's the thing is it's it arms them with knowledge, right? And it takes that fear out of what the next steps are, and it kind of puts them back in the driver's seat.
Oh, exactly. But that's the driver's seat is the interesting thing too, because this is why mediation exists. It's so that you do retain control over the outcome. It's meant to be used for you to work out the arrangements that are great for your kids, and also something that you can live with and that your co-parent can live with. Like you're not meant to hand over all these decisions to other people. But I don't know if people fully know that this is the case, and then how you get to use that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Well, the great thing is about having someone like you is that they can ask you the questions rather than asking people who don't really know or have had their own bad experiences, right? And rather than sort of getting wound up in all that, they can come to you and you can like be very factual and explain it so it puts their mind at ease. And then, because otherwise they're going to be losing sleep, they're going to be stressed to the max. They will then like maybe do silly things, say silly things that they probably shouldn't say,
well,
makes
that's the
things
thing.
worse.
Yeah, and you see people getting certainly, I want people to ask me a lot of questions. I wouldn't mind going back to that point about what people tell you or what you hear, because I think that's one of the big myths about mediation. I think that you're going to go into a room and that you're thrown in there, right? You just walk in and then you end up rehashing the same old arguments from before. And certainly if you're not prepared with some understanding of the conflict and some sort of strategies and tactics in place to negotiate and know what you're working on, I think that's the danger of people go into just being positional. It's that old, you hear people saying, I'm not settling for anything less than 60%. I want my 60% and that's it. It's like you see it in business as well with negotiations. They throw the offer down on the table. That's it. I'm not budging. Well, there's no room for negotiation. But if you prepare before then to know what it's like, they call it bracketing. So if you know what your what you want, but also there's room to move, and you understand where the other person's coming from as well, you can start looking for what the gaps are so that you can get sort of somewhat closer. But I think, yeah, it's a real danger just to get stuck on a position and state it. But that made me think of something else that I think works really well too, because we know with like research into negotiation that when someone puts forward their, you know, when they say, like, if they were to say, I want 60%, or so they just want, they're adamant that they want Wednesday nights. They want their child for a Wednesday night. We know from research that if you give a reason, like the rationale behind what you're proposing, it's more likely to be accepted. Now, there's some research, well, this is terrible. There's some research where they also showed that you could make up the rationale and your option would still be accepted. But we don't need to do that, because we're not, like, we don't need to, we don't want to be negating our values and our integrity. You need to be able to give a rationale for what you're asking.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, what you're doing gives an opportunity for people to be very honest and open and transparent, as well as be able to be prepared as well, so that then they can come with, you know, without having walls up so much, you know, they can just like, you know, I mean, it's a bit hard to say relax, but they can just be a little bit more at ease, right, with what is happening. And then it just makes it a little bit easier for them, because they know that you have their back. And
I do. Now, I've got to be impartial as a mediator. So the preparation time I spend with one party, I do with the same. But that ease, that feeling of ease, because that would actually sound quite frightening to someone, where you've got to be open and transparent and lay it all on the table, because we know from when we've been taught business, like, you never give away, like, show your hand. But this is a time where, you know, the stakes are high. This is about your life and your children's well-being. But you don't necessarily have to. Look, I prefer it if people just laid it all out in mediation. But if they're uncomfortable about that, I prefer it if they do speak to me beforehand. And I can help more the more people tell me, because then we can work out what to do with that information. Or maybe there's a different way of saying it to the other person, sort of in a different way that will be more, I suppose, accepted or received. And you can, and there's ease in that, like even understanding, how it works and what you need to do in order to, you know, view what the outcome could possibly be. And I'm certainly all for people reducing their nerves. Preparing for anything, isn't it? Do your homework before you go to the exam.
Yes, that's it. And I think too, you know, being able to do that, because if you're coming from a place of fear at the time, right, there might be something that you want to put across, but you don't know how to word it, and it will just come out in a way that might frighten the other person, or the other person goes, whoa, like, even though it wasn't meant to come across like that. And it might even, because of how they're feeling already, they've received it the wrong way, and because of the way the person said it, it didn't come across the right way, and that's how things get.
I know. And that's that's the classic. That's how we have just general conflict, of just the misunderstandings or the miscommunication or the delivery or something. So there needs to be time before going into mediation to practice those things. And there's a thing in mediation. So there's a process, and this is facilitative mediation that I do and talk about, where there are private sessions, like you call them private sessions. So during the mediation, a mediator will say, well, let's just have a break and I'll speak to you one-on-one. It's still confidential, but they can use that time to just have a little practice, or just try something a little bit differently and get and practice it on the mediator. So They don't give you advice about whether that's going to work or not, but you can practice and just have an understanding of, yeah, maybe there's a different way of couching that, and always give the reasoning for it and have some, some backup and an explanation to go with that.
Yes. And do you mind if I ask you, because this is something that we spoke about in our, when we caught up via Zoom for our coffee catch up. And that's, because I know with my own coaching with men, it's sometimes I have to offer some insight into how their former partner might be feeling when they're going through, separation or something, just to, and it just helps, right? Because sometimes, because often with men, because there is very much an identity piece, that comes into it. And when a man has been like the father, the protector, the financial provider for so long, all of a sudden he's like, everything that he has lived for and who he feels he is no longer there, right? So because it's just not the same environment anymore. And that's terrifying for him, because he doesn't know who he is anymore. And so that's, when you'll see men like starting to spiral downwards. And then with women, obviously, especially if they haven't been the main financial provider, or that's pretty scary for them, right? Because they're thinking, oh, well, I don't know how I'm going to provide for my children now, for myself. How's this going to play out? And it just brings up, so many different fears within of what the future will hold, right? And so that's also how the miscommunication can happen, because you've got two people that are just terrified of what their future might be like, but at the same time, they're wanting to solve it amicably, but also very frightened of of what's going to be coming up over the next weeks, months, or years. So what are some cool insights that you could share into that could help men, and maybe even help them a little bit with, so they can see a little bit more insight into their their partners or ex-partners?
Yeah, because I think that's the thing, really. You end up at being at the opposite corners of a room, don't you? You're so far apart from each other with your own fears, and it presents differently. I mean, someone who's acting really tough is actually really frightened, and they're worried about doing something or making massive mistakes. And this is the thing, because you are making huge decisions in the time of like dreadful stress. But the ones who are really good at this, and the ones where I see being the most successful, are the people who can work through that and think about the perspective of the other person. Now, look, it's really hard, and it's a really hard, like that's a hard ask of someone, particularly, I mean, if they've ripped your heart out of your chest and they've stomped on it, the last thing you want to be doing is thinking about their point of view. But if you can understand or start seeing that there could be a completely different way of viewing, it's like you look at something, like if everyone looks around the different the facets of an object, you can start seeing there are other different ways of seeing it, and maybe how that flexible thinking will actually help you in many ways. So, because it'll help you work out where the other person views it, where they're sitting on that. It'll give you a better view of what the gap is, and maybe even possibly see where you're in agreement. Because that's something else I see in mediation as well. Some people, when they can be this flexible and take different perspectives, they actually start seeing that they're closer in agreement on certain things than they would ordinarily have thought. But it means that they can then, it's that thing we were talking about already, the way you present something or explain something, if you can understand where the other is coming from and what part of it is actually the thing that they're interested in. Look, there's a really old analogy and story told in mediation about two sisters wanting to split and like fighting over an orange. and it's the old Solomon's baby, you know, the idea is just to cut it in half. But I mean, one wants orange juice to drink and the other one wants to use the pith, the zest to, maybe not the pith, but the zest in a cake. So, and it's not until you get talking about it and considering the other that you can actually work out how to make this work properly.
Yes.
I think too, there's something that happens that can be really beautiful and really successful in mediation. Like, I'm not advocating people do this all the time, and certainly if it's not suitable, but I will occasionally see someone, it can be an apology or even just an acknowledgement that they didn't realize the other person's point of view until they spent time thinking about it. And it can be, like, I saw one fairly recently of someone realizing that the other, they'd never explained that they also got the fact that he could see his wife was at home looking after children, and so that he could do a lot of traveling. But it wasn't until he spent time thinking about what that all meant and how it all worked that he came to the realization that maybe he needed to say something about that. He actually ended up thanking her, and that just brought, like, well, it brought the tone, like it changed the whole environment of the mediation, so that then they were able to work out something far more flexible. It allowed for him to travel. It meant that she was okay with being like flexible to a point, like getting some warning, but being flexible about how things arranged, knowing that he wasn't taking advantage of her and that she wasn't just being difficult. And so, yeah, I think you've got to dig deep sometimes, but if you can do that, you're a very clever, smart person.
Yeah. And not only that, it's just for your own sanity and well-being. Yes. It's great to be able to do that, because what that means is, and also shows, is that you're prepared to take personal responsibility and accountability. It doesn't mean that you're taking the blame. It just means that you're wanting to say, hey, like, I understand the situation, but also I understand where my perception was. Now I feel like this, and you know, and I want to take responsibility for that, and moving, you know, and also, like, because then it gives you more possibilities and opportunities and moving forward, right? Because it just takes the blinders off big time. Yeah,
exactly. And look, that's a really great point too, because the mediation on the day of mediating is about creating your future. It's all about future things that you need for your children need, and you need for your life. So and you're also going to continue needing to be flexible and negotiate on things later. So young children, they hold different issues, and I don't need to go into all that because people already know. But yeah, things that were great for a kindergartner, very different for someone doing their HSC. So you've got to, you have to create a different kind of relationship with the person you've had children with.
Yes, yeah, and I see that. Seeing that with my clients, especially when it's come to children, right? And there's, and especially if, I'll give an example, you know, like if they're broken up and then the wife ex-wife, I should say, you know, has moved on, you know, with someone new quite quickly, and then all of a sudden that's like, hackles are up, right? From the man, because he's like going, hey, like, is that going to be the new father of my children? Or, you know, especially when he's been the provider and the protector for so long, he's feeling so deeply hurt inside, right, about where his place is in his children's life. And so, you know, when there's situations like that going on, that makes it very difficult too, right? Because then there's people are coming from deep hurt, and then it's like, well, screw you.
I'm going to do
If
this.
you,
And then and this is what I want, and this is how it's going to be.
yeah.
Yes, because that's a big fear. The big fear, it's the fear of being replaced by someone else.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yet also in terms of maybe that's another thing too, of trying to take the perspective of the child, because it's a legitimate fear that we're going to be replaced by someone else. But for children, there's no there's
Yeah.
no way
Yeah.
you are replaced.
Yes.
So what do you tell people when they are that concerned and feel like they are being replaced by the new partner?
What do I say?
Yeah, I want to know what you say.
Okay, cool. Well, I try to give insights into what she might be feeling. And then also like insights into, you know, like that the kids are probably confused, right? They don't know. They don't want to have to make a choice. And if he like goes out of his way to take responsibility for just focusing on his connection with his kids and operating from his core values, and it's actually part of the inner resilience compass that I work with on men is very much about always, if they have children, that's a core component of that, no matter what is going on in their life, that they stay strong with their connection with their children. And that can be hard if it's very volatile situation, right? If they've got one partner trying to turn, the kids against dad or whatever. But I always say you do the best that you can. Don't you go shooting off your mouth and saying crazy stuff, because then that's just more ammo for the other party, right? So you make sure that you stay, that's why I give them tools and so forth, that they can utilize to regulate their nervous system, right? Come back to their core values, their inner resilience compass. Is what I'm thinking about saying or doing right now congruent with that? If not, do not go there.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And what's the greater benefit for the kids? Because it's quite interesting in situations where you'll find that, kids might start to turn against a parent at times because of what's from one parent sort of turning it, turning the children against the other parent. And what happens is usually it may pan out like that for a bit, but then as the kid gets older, they usually turn around and go, Dad, I love you so much. I'm so sorry. And it can be such an awful thing to have to go through. And I always say, just be patient. Don't give up, right? Sometimes it can just be something like 3 or 4 months where it's like that. Sometimes it can be a bit longer. But just remember that the ex is operating from a place of fear.
Yeah, because you hear about that happening, and you do see it, and it's like some people will, when they're operating from fear, they'll try. I mean, they're trying things and doing things that may not necessarily be part of their general way of being, also.
Yes.
But the danger is that the other party, the other parent, then it's like they're trying to then do things over to circumvent that, and you think, no, just stay in your path. And that's the same advice I give with mediation and with preparing. Just keep your eyes and focus on the children. What do your children need? And they do not need to be dragged into conflict. I know that people always say this, but there are set things that you can do so that you're not dragging them in, because they never asked for this.
No.
But I find it is a lot easier to think, make decisions in your life, and even prepare for these difficult conversations, and also make arrangements and work out what to do and how to go about it. If you do, you just think, what do the kids need?
Yes.
And there's a lot of, that's part of building up your resilience, isn't it? To keep your it's all about connection and what your purpose is.
Yes. That's it. And it also, for me, this is why I find it's important, is that because then you're leading by example, right? Because then your children are going to grow up then and see how mummy and daddy navigated their way through this in a wonderful way, you know, and if you, and, you know, from sons or daughters' point of view, and especially because I work with men, they see their dad standing strong within himself and has really been super upright and wonderful throughout that process. That's a wonderful example for them to see, right? And, you know, from a son, then he goes, that's the kind of man I want to be. And then the daughter will go, that's the kind of man I want in my life when I get older, right? That's super important. It kind of helps break the cycle, because, you know, when it comes to relationship separations, it can cause so many problems for the next generation, right?
And it doesn't have to be that bad.
No.
Because we feel a lot of guilt. So we feel a lot of guilt already separating. You think, oh, right, well, this is it. That, like, we've ruined our children's life.
Yes.
And everything from, totally change their trajectory to, turn them off marriage, all those things. I mean, we can just be so awful to ourselves, the way we worry so much.
Yeah.
But certainly, and kids are all seeing. So why not, what's the saying about when others go low, you go high? You know, taking that high road, because I mean, the kids see it. They may not necessarily process it in this way when they're young, but yeah, they definitely do later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many kids do you see just go, they're just like, they can be like, you know, still 5 or 6 years down the track, hoping that their parents will get back together, even if they've both found new partners, you know what I mean? That's like, kids take it personally, you know?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So I think, and we probably, people just generally should talk more about how kids do. It does turn out okay for them too.
Yes.
Without taking on more shame and guilt of separating. I mean, there are things that we do need to do for them, and I think that's, I mean, it's like I'm a cheerleader for mediation, or someone called me, I'm a mediator on a mission, but using mediation to get these things sorted out earlier rather than later.
Yes.
Like before everyone's really positional and said and done things that they shouldn't have.
Yes.
Has a great benefit to children as well. Let's just get it sorted out.
Yes.
Don't drag them into it, and then make arrangements that are all like focused on them, and also are doable and healthy for the parents as well.
Yes.
And then we don't have to have this whole story of, oh, children of single dads and single mothers have more mental health issues and are more likely to smoke and drink alcohol earlier. I say no to that. I think we should be working on things a lot better to prevent that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, what a wonderful, like, I'm so stoked that I met you, because if there's anyone that I know, you know, that is experiencing that, then I can send them to you, right? Because, I mean, having been through marriage separation myself, and, you know, coaching a lot of guys that have been through it or have, you know, going through it, and seeing, you know, a lot of the issues that have taken place, it's like, it's especially once lawyers get involved.
But lawyers have their place, and
yes, of course.
And I think that I liken the people you need to get around you like a divorce team. You've got to. It's a bit like the friends as well. Just be particular about, or selective. Let's call it selective. Be selective about who you have around you. There are some great lawyers who they do not want to see you go to court.
Yes.
They see it day in, day out, and it affects them as well. Like, they see the emotional toll of going to court and a long drawn out litigation when the matter really could have been sorted out earlier. There are collaborative lawyers and there are lawyers who talk about collaboration, and you've got to shop around and ask them questions and look at how they talk about that on their websites, but also when you have an interview with them. And it's the same thing as with mediators. Like, I like being auditioned. I want lots of questions thrown at me.
Yeah.
Because I think you need to be really comfortable with a mediator as well as with a lawyer. So
Yes.
lawyers aren't there, and here's the classic mistake to make, is thinking a lawyer is there for you to tell, and then she did this and he did this and this is what. They will listen because they're kind and respectful, but they're not able to help you with all of that.
Yes.
I'm the kind of mediator where I do want to hear all that.
Yes.
I don't have the clock running, and I want people to tell me what they're dealing with, so then we can work on it together to work out what needs to happen.
Yes.
But yeah, seeing a really great coach, like seeing a coach like you who understands it. And then if there's some other issues that maybe need like a clinical psychologist,
Yes.
I think people need to go to that, like ask for this kind of help without being fearful. And yeah, I'm all for people calling me, and we'll have a chat about where they need to go first and what they need to do. But one of my fabulous things about being a family dispute resolution practitioner when it comes to counsellors and psychologists is that if I write a referral, it means that their notes are inadmissible, so it can't be subpoenaed and presented in court. And I want more people to know this. Look, some psychs don't even know this, because I don't want people not asking for help out of fear either.
Yes. Yeah.
So we can get this kind of, we can get a lot of things with this team. We can get a lot of things sorted out early before they become big.
That's very, very good to know that, you know, what you just mentioned about it not being admissible in court, because then that will, you know, people being able to come to you and be able to open up about things, and especially if, you know, when it comes to their fears as well, or something that may have taken place that they don't really want to be out there.
Yeah, sure. Let's sort it out, because it's getting it sorted out early before it becomes the whole dueling lawyers or workshopping in mediation. Is going to just take a toll on you, and your finances, as well as you emotionally, and just ratchet up your stress level.
Yeah, that's it. I know. I went with mediation, and there was a lawyer sort of at the end who, and she was great, and I felt so lucky that I got her, because I had spoken to another lawyer, and I was scared of her. I was like, holy crap.
Well, it's great if you've got a commercial issue, but yeah, when it comes to personal.
But and I just thought, and like, I just, because she was more hell-bent on just like, you know, taking my ex to the cleaners, and I said, I don't want that. That's not what I want. Like, I couldn't do that to him. I didn't want that for him or me. And so I felt so blessed when this other, you know, lady came along, and I was like, oh, she was so lovely, and, you know, did it based on, you know, because my ex and I had decided what we had wanted, and so she had based it, and it was just so wonderful to work with her.
And I think the majority of people, like, they mean well. I mean, that's the way that they're operating, and they really want to fight for you and work for you. But I think the only time you've got to be careful is you don't want to be like, you've got to ask a lot of questions. You don't want to go with anyone who is like, this is mediators and lawyers, any kind of advisors who want you to settle regardless of the case. So anyone who talks about like a high rate of like settling matters, I really, if that's not what you need and what you need to be doing, there are other people that you can go to. But, you know, seeing a lawyer, I think what you said about, like, you saw a lawyer at the end, like, seeing a lawyer at the beginning and at the end is really great, because you need to go into mediation being fully informed. And one of those things is understanding the legal aspects of what you're dealing with. And then and coming, like if you come to an agreement, either you come to an agreement like around the kitchen bench on the couch or in the mediation, you can have a lawyer who will just give you some independent advice about what you've agreed to. And if you want to formalize that, you need a lawyer to do that, to draft up consent orders, take it to court, and get it signed off.
Yes.
But yeah, and then you'll feel comfortable that you've done all that you can do to make this as simple as possible, because that's the thing, isn't it? You want to be able to get on with life knowing that you've done what you needed to do, and that there's some legitimacy to it, and everyone can live with it. Yeah, and I think it's whatever suits you. You gotta find your people, and then be kind to yourself, and be true to yourself too.
That's it. And I think, you know, for everyone's sake, it's important to be able to do things as amicably as possible, and
well,
be able.
And that's tough. That's tough too. But yeah, it's like you've got to step. It's like stepping away from the problem. So let's deal with it's like it is a shared issue. Like it's a shared problem. It's what you need to do to be able to move on. So view it as that rather than the person and their behavior and fighting them. It's just better for everybody.
Yeah. And not only that, then it's like then you can focus on what your next chapter is going to be, right?
Yes.
And that's nice to be able to do that when you've had someone like yourself get involved and be able to sort through this and navigate through this, so that then you can go, okay, well, I still might be hurt and devastated by all of this, but I'm glad that, you know, there's resolution now, and now I can focus on what's next and start planning my new life, right?
Exactly. I mean, and it's a hard thing to imagine. Like, there's nothing worse, you know, when you've got a problem and someone says, "Oh, it's okay. You'll get over it. It'll get better," and you think, "No, that's not that helpful." But I mean, I do want people to know that that it does get better. There is a life. Look, it's not the life that maybe we envisaged.
Yes.
Because that's the thing. There's a saying too about, you know, God laughs at those who make plans. I don't even know where that came from, but it's look, it's not what you're prepared for, and it's not what you thought things would be, but it does, it's different, but it can be good too. But it's up to you to create it for yourself, rather than just letting other people tell you how it's meant to be, or well, it should be.
Yeah.
Filler of all joy.
And if there was anything that you could, because one thing that I do know, because I try to, you know, when I work with my clients, I try to be able to help them move through it resiliently and be able to come through it with more strength, right?
Yes.
Rather than destroy them. So I want them to be able to, that's why it's resilience and anti-fragility, right? So that they can like power through it in a way. Obviously they're still going to have hurt feelings, and there's going to be ups and downs, but to be able to move through it in a way where they can come out the other side of it stronger, and really be prepared in an incredible way for the next chapter, right? So they feel empowered. It's about empowering themselves. And I think, you know, from a resilience point of view, if you have someone like yourself to be able to help you through this, then it does make it a lot better and more helpful for you to empower yourself, right?
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's really great. Oh, I love it. You're on my team of cheerleaders. Thank you very much, Mandy. But yeah, I just want to see people doing better, and I think this is the thing. In mediation, it's a powerful tool, but it's almost like it's an unknown, and so there are ways of using it to make your life better, and there are ways of even like using it to, I suppose, build up your resilience, because it is about you taking control of your aspect of it, learning about it, and then using it to its potential. So, and it means that you then end up with some energy and some lots of joy to put into this, the things that are really important, like the connection with your children.
Yes. Yes. That's cool. And how, you know, because of the type of work that you do you find that it's actually personally helped you become more resilient?
Oh, that's a good question. Thank you. Well, yeah, the thing for me in terms of resilience, for me, it's important. I mean, we know that resilience comes from positive experiences. So for me, the positive experiences come from connection and purpose. So my purpose as a mother with my children. But yeah, I get a lot of satisfaction and that whole, the purpose from helping other people. As cliched as it sounds, not make the mistakes of the mistakes I made, but also, yeah, just get through it and work on it a little quicker and a little easier. I know we said earlier, it's not, yeah, the ease is not necessarily, this is hard work.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, people need to be courageous when they're taking on, well, separating really is courage in itself, but also taking on, like deciding that you're going to do something about it and using something like mediation. It does take courage. And I like that with people that I work with. I take a lot of satisfaction from being someone who can help, support, provide resources, provide some tools, direct them in the way that they can do that. And I really admire them too, because I have people telling me their worst fears, and they tell me things, because you find the same thing, because they're telling you things that they've never told anybody else. And I find, like, I really appreciate that, and I don't view that lightly.
Yeah. Yeah. And that speaks a lot about you to be able to want to create that safe place for people, because, you know, it's during those challenging situations that's when, you know, a lot of people will say, and, you know, it's always interesting who has your back when you're going through challenges, right? The people that you think that will don't always have that, right? And so, because people are going, whoa, that's too hard, like, you'll be right. Everyone goes through separation, like, see you later, too hard basket, right? So it's like, so having someone like yourself, it's so wonderful that people can come to you and you can be that vault for them.
Oh, thank you. I don't know what else to say. Oh, I feel bashful now, but yeah, thank you. But I think that's the thing, isn't it? With it's resilience. I mean, it's resilience training, and it's the looking for. You only need 3, don't you? You only need 3 like strong. Well, a stool only has 3 legs. You're only looking for like some of the 3 areas, and one of them is looking for those. Looking for those helpers, or looking for a connection. And you don't have to have millions of friends either, because like, if you have millions of friends who are all wanting to help, people just don't know what to say. They mean well, but I suppose that's the thing about being selective about who you choose and who you tell, and then they'll rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
But that's my take on it. But I think also, and just being, I suppose on that note too, I feel gratitude to people who do actually try, because there are people, they don't know what to say, but they do try, and they do want to help, so they just help in different ways.
Yeah, that's it. And you can always, even with the men that I coach, always say, like draw like a box with squares, right, in it, and it could be 4 squares, 6 squares, whatever. Write a list in each of those squares. Who's the person who is your vault in your life? Who's the person who you'll go and play sports with? Who's the person that you'll do this with? Who's the person who you'll joke around with? You know, so you have those, so then you're not calling on the person who might play footy with on the weekend, but he really doesn't care about helping you with other things. So then you then get to take responsibility for, you know, for those people. So at the times that you just want to play footy, you got Joe Bloggs over here. And then for the time that you want to speak to someone, you know, your vault person, then you've got that there. So it's not a bad way of categorizing people. It's just a more, I take responsibility for who I hang out with for what I want in life, right?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. It's looking at, I suppose, what capacity they have too.
Yeah, that's it.
But it's also, yeah, and I can see that that's taking responsibility for reaching out, like to actually go looking for the person who can, and the people who can help you.
Yeah. Well,
the worst thing you can do is like sit at home and just feel really bad about yourself and not talk to anyone.
That's it. And it's, you know, and also if you know someone is probably going to bag the crap out of your situation, you probably, you know, don't go and spend time with them, because you know they'll make you feel even worse, right? Or you'll you'll behave more destructively. So if you've got people that you know that you can turn to, that are responsible and who will have your back and want you to rise in life, they're the people that can sort of bear the weight of what you're going to be sharing with them. It's great to know who they are, even if it is as one or two people, to have that, so that then, you know, in those moments when you need someone like that, you can go to them, and you can always ask them if they would be that person for you, which probably sounds kind of weird. A lot of guys feel weird about that.
Awkward. But I think people would appreciate being asked what their capacity is as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's also, also going for, like, asking for professional help too.
Yes.
So finding, go looking and research and find someone like you with a specialty.
Yes.
It's finding that, like, even talking to a GP. Look, I'm all for shopping around for a good GP as well. You've got to be able to talk to someone. You've got to be able to tell them what's really going on. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to help you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. And I mean, there are guys that I speak with, you know, who'll ring up and, like, I might refer them on to someone else, you know, because I might think, well, they probably need to see a therapist about something, or, you know, I know that they're, just because depending on what they want, right, what they require. And I think that's important, that when they're shopping around it, the person that is speaking to can also be honest about referring.
Oh, very much so. And look, I think I've even got a comment like that on my website, because I thought, well, I can, so being a nationally accredited mediator, I can mediate all manner of situations. So I get calls from people with different disputes and kind of things that they need to be sorting out. And the beauty of mediation is that I can help them, and the process does help them. But if I know that there's somebody who with a specialty in that area, then I'm certainly not going to take on matters that are out of my scope. That doesn't help anybody, and that's professionally irresponsible. And there's a great strength in also saying, so we're saying to people, you know, come to us for help. So there's great strength in them actually going, actually, I could do with some help. But there's great strength in also professionally saying, this is out of my scope of understanding, and there would be someone who is better equipped to help you with that.
It is interesting. It's fun. The people that I have recommended onto someone else always end up coming back to me anyway. So, which is interesting, right? Because they go, I love so much how you helped me just in the phone call, you know what I mean? And I wanted to, and so I ended up being part of their team anyway, right, to help them.
That's
so
right.
it always,
there's always something.
So
I have people coming to me, someone who they've got a mediation coming up, because of course you have to have both parties in agreement of who their mediator is. I'll have people coming to me who they want to know how to prepare, or they need to upskill in negotiation, or understand what they're dealing with and how to approach it. So I do negotiation coaching in that instance as well.
Yeah.
And then mediators do this really great thing where we also work together,
Yeah.
where we co-mediate.
Yeah.
Sometimes we've got both in the room. It provides more of a balance or some kind of
Yeah.
specialty. There are different reasons
Yeah.
why we do that.
Yeah.
And then I work closely with lawyers. I often have lawyers in the room with me. So we call
Yeah.
it legally assisted mediation, which I love
Yeah.
doing, because that's the thing about
Yeah.
working
Yeah.
in a team. So
Yeah.
whether it's a linear or getting help for specific things at the time that you need them,
Yeah.
or getting everyone in at the same
Yeah.
time, just getting it
Yeah.
sorted out.
Yeah. That would be great with the lawyers, because then if someone is having difficulty saying something or trying to communicate something, then you're able to.
Yeah, well, the lawyer goes in as the advocate for that party, whereas I'm in the middle, making sure that and knowing what the things are that they've worked on to communicate, knowing that they need the space and the time and the quietness to say it. But yeah, that having the lawyers there as well is really helpful for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so excited that we've had this conversation today, and
Thank
I'm
you.
excited for people to hear this, because it digs a little bit more deeper into, I guess, answering a lot of the questions that people have about mediation, right? And just knowing that, because they say knowledge is power, but I really just feel like it's more about taking the fear out of the unknown, right? And just being able to say, hey, look, this is what goes on. This is how Marnie does it anyway. So that but yeah, and it makes people feel more comfortable with knowing what their options are. Yeah.
Well, look, I'm all for that, and so thank you for saying that. Yeah, I'm all for people, knowing what they're dealing with,
Yeah.
and walking into mediation like fully prepared with a strategy in place and ready to get those decisions made that are going to be for their children, which is how it's meant to be. So thank you. Thanks for asking me these fabulous questions and helping me get the word out there that mediation can be really great.
Yes. Mediation Rocks t-shirt.
Yes, along with the mediator on a mission, sure. How many cliches can we throw at this? But because this is a serious issue, and I know we're laughing a lot, but really, it's if you can get into some good mediation, you can get make life, just change the trajectory of your life and get some things sorted out.
Yeah, that's it. And so where can people get hold of you? Like, because I'm going to include links underneath this.
Right, thank you. Well, I've got a website, and so there is a calendar on there where people can book a phone call with me. And I would love, it doesn't matter whether you think you've got mediation coming up or you're nowhere near it. I just love people using that booking to talk to me, so we can just, because that's the thing, when you separate, you don't know where to go, what you're meant to do first. So I would prefer if people could just call me. We can sort out a bit of an action plan. I can give the referrals. I can refer them to lawyers. I can refer them to psychs, like whatever they want. I can set them on their way with that. And the other thing I'm doing on LinkedIn is I'm putting up some like material. So just some of the things like, we didn't even talk about them today. Some of the stuff I've got up there, like negotiation skills and techniques and cognitive
tell us
bias.
quickly about that then.
Well, there are things to look out for, that like negotiation, like strategies and techniques, things like the cognitive biases that get in your way, whether you're negotiating a car or a job, like a salary rise or going into mediation. There are some things that if you're aware of them, then you can use them and know that they're, you're not being swayed or directed elsewhere.
Yes, yeah.
So it's all there. But if there's, you can go to my website. I've got a list of some really great resources to go to, and if there's something on there that doesn't answer the question that someone has, I'd rather hear from them by phone or an email, and I'll send things their way.
Awesome. So I'll make sure that I put your website and LinkedIn and your LinkedIn on there as well.
Love to see people on there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I met Marnie, was through LinkedIn. So
It was too. That's
yeah.
right. Yeah. See, building up the community.
That's it.
Like-minded people.
Yay. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on today, Marnie. It's been awesome.
Oh, thanks for having me. Love talking to you.
Yeah, I love
do it
talking
again.
to you too. Yeah, I know.
There's so much to talk about.
I know there is.
Oh,
Awesome.
thanks, Mandy.
Well, everybody, make sure that you reach out to Marnie. I'll put the details underneath this podcast. And thanks again so much, Marnie, for coming on today. It's been really, really good.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Okay,
Mandy.
big hugs, everyone. See you later.